Welcome into an all-new episode of When the Game Ends. It's episode 21. Ben Holden, Mike Carmen, and Carmi, third time for you in Marquette, man. You're back in the great state of Michigan, way up about 7 hours north of me.
Yeah, it's coincidentally, it's about the amount of time I spent in the car today. It's been a heck of a travel day. I didn't anticipate. I've been in the hotel room for all of 15 minutes, but we're ready to go.
Off the bus and right into the game we go, right? So good to see you, bud. And we're excited about our next guest. I mean, we've had a lot of decorated people on this podcast here now in 21 episodes. I would say at this point, Gigi Marvin probably takes the honors, but our next guest is certainly right there and might be a little bit in front of her. She might argue that, but Monique Lamoureux is our guest, a 3-time Olympian, a 6-time world champ, just an unbelievable family of hockey players. We had her brother Mario on, and we'll see if she's donning the Sioux flag behind her like Mario taunted you with when we bring her in, man. What's your connection with Monique?
So Monique and I overlapped my junior year at Minnesota, her 1 year at the Gophers, and we'll definitely get into that. How, a Sioux family, we got some Gophers out of it, but just incredibly talented hockey player. I mean, this is our third Olympian we've had on because we've had her, Gigi, and Ebbs would be our other one.
Yeah, Abby, and then
am I missing one?
I want to say, that's it. Yeah, I was thinking a couple of the rugby guys we've had on, but they weren't Olympians, but they were international players. But yes, you're right.
There you go. So no, it's exciting to have someone on that, again, tons of accomplishments in the hockey world. I mean, I think it's fortunate for us to be able to speak to somebody who, again, has been in the Olympics multiple times, won multiple world championships. Excited to catch up and talk some pro Sioux, pro Gophers, and we'll see how it goes. You give me enough of these Sioux guys, Benny, and girls. Then
well, this one's on you because you booked her after her brother. So let's bring in Monique Lamoureux. Monique, thanks for joining us. How are things in Grand Forks, North Dakota?
It's good. Our spring has actually held on. We've had a pretty mild winter for it being in. You guys know if you've been here, it's so cold during the winter. So we've had barely any snow this year. So I'm thankful for it because I hate being cold, but it's been good. I have 4 kiddos, so I'm wrangling kids most days, but yeah, it's chaos all the time, but enjoying a different part of life now. So
yeah. And we'll get into that. I said to Monique before we brought her in, I said, I enjoy seeing her Instagram stuff. We connected on there. I'm sure Carmi did too after your brother Mario was on. And you are an early riser, man. You're up at 4 a.m, aren't you?
Yeah, so our workout equipment's in the garage. And so my husband leaves for work at 5 a.m, 4 or 5 days a week. So I have to be back in the house for my workout before he leaves because one or two of our kids will without fail will get up before 5:30. So we're currently going to rearrange we're going to move our gym stuff into the basement at some point in the near future because I would like to work out a little bit longer. I get up absurdly early. My alarm goes off at 3:45 and then my phone goes off at 3:50 and then I get up at 3:50 and just get moving. But yeah, I haven't been to a gym since COVID. No,
wow.
So
Impressive stuff. So Carmi, before you go, we'll get into when the game ended and all the transition and all that with you, Monique. But like Brian Lurg we had on a couple episodes ago, Carmi, Lurgy's got 4 kids under 5. Monique's got 4 with her husband. So we kind of know what she's doing now that her game has ended. But with that said, I'll let you go ahead, Carmi.
Well, I was just going to say, if I had to get up at 4 a.m. to work out, I'd weigh 300 pounds and I would not be not be in very good shape. That is impressive, especially coming back in to start wrangling kids at 5 a.m. in the morning. It takes a lot of dedication. But like Ben said, we obviously want to get into when the game ends with you. I'm curious, are any of the kids skating yet? Kind of what's going on there in terms of the hockey legacy continuing with the Lamoureux family?
Yeah, so our oldest, he just turned 6 in December, so not a great hockey birthday, apparently. I barely know what ages and the cutoffs are still at this point, but he just finished his 2nd year termite, so I have quickly gotten I shouldn't say wrangled in, I have volunteered to start coaching. So last year when he started, our youngest was only a couple months old, so I was I'm I'm not getting into coaching yet. And then after watching last year, I'm like, okay, next year I'll start coaching. So I'm actually one of my college teammates, Margot Miller. She's the part-time girls director for Grand Forks. So I'm actually a Minnesota resident now. My husband and I, we moved over to East Grand Forks in the fall, where I'm helping. We're setting up some two like girls try hockey for free events coming up in the next few weeks. So I'm quickly getting pretty involved, I think, with youth hockey. So I mean, I'm going to be at practices and stuff, so I might as well be on the ice if I'm going to be at the rink. So I'm very quickly getting involved, much more than I anticipated, but it is what
it's kind of one of those things. Like I've been coaching AAA since I got done. Don't have any kids yet. But for as long as I've been coaching, I've always said, I'm not going to coach my kid. I want somebody else to coach him. I want somebody else to listen. I've been told so many times by everybody, they're like, you're going to watch 1 year and be like, I need to get on the ice.
Yep.
And so it sounds like that's what's happening with you.
Yeah. Well, it's like when our dad coached all of us at some point, like when we were growing up, and I think he had come back from a practice one night and he was being like critical of the coaches. So my mom pretty much said, well, put your money where your mouth is and start coaching. So then he's like, yeah, you're probably right. So then he coached like all of us at some point while we were growing up. So I'm like, well, I better get on the ice and start helping. So it's, I enjoy it though. I mean, like to coach like termites and to be good at it, like you have to bring the enthusiasm. So that's like one thing our brother Mario, like he probably would never admit it, but like he has a gift with like really little kids just because he gets so into it and he's so enthusiastic. And so like if you can get them like super engaged at that age, you're just like the retention, just keeping them in is going to be, you're just going to hold on to your numbers at that, like in your community. So
yeah, they're more entertained by the personality than what you're actually telling them what to do, right? It's all about that energy level for sure. Mm-hmm. It's funny you bring up Mario, and that's kind of how we came into interview with you. You had sent us a message on our Instagram after Mario had come on, and then you and I had kind of gone back and forth about getting you to come on the show. And I have to absolutely share the last conversation we were having about Mario. So Ben, I shared this with you off air before.
Yes, you did.
Monique texted me and said, I'll help if you ever have Mario back on. I'll help you set up his computer so it's not 3 feet below his face. Yeah. And I responded. I go, well, he was more concerned about his Sioux flag in the background, and she goes, yeah, apparently more concerned than his double chins. So I thought I'm
pretty sure he was probably sitting with it in his lap, but he might have been like, he has 3 young girls, so he probably was trying just to get into a quiet room, and his main concern was definitely the Sioux flag in the background.
I have no doubt.
Classic. That was absolutely classic. Carmi's taken a few bullets on this thing so far, and that was a fun episode with your brother. He was awesome. And one of the things that I took away, there was a lot I took away from that interview that we'll carry into this one. And to get your perspective on this, I had no idea about your mom. I had no idea that she ran all those marathons. And your brother said she was the athlete of the family. So, like, just talk to us a little bit and share some memories or some things that stand out about the impact that obviously your dad had a huge impact on you, but your mom specifically, Monique, what were some of the lessons she taught you at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely flew under the radar because our dad won 2 national championships at UND. So obviously that's like probably the first thing most people think of, but it's like my mom she swam at UND for 2 years, I believe, but like one of our uncles swam at Minnesota. He was a Big Ten champion. I don't know I can't remember for what event, but like there was 6 kids on my mom's side. So, and they were all swimmers, which my mom calls a grunt sport, which I love that. That's how she refers it to. Cause it's like, you can't fake your laps. Like you have to do them. You can't shoot your laps. And it's like, it's you in the pool, and it's like, it's quiet, and it's like, it's you and your mind. And so I'm so glad my mom, my sister and I tried to get out of practices all the time. She's like, no, just go. Chlorine will make it feel better is what she would tell us. But yeah, she, after she had all 6 of us in 5 years, they had six kids in 5.5 years. The priest at church actually asked her when she was due with my sister and I 3 weeks after she had us. And that kind of like sparked something in her. And so she ran in total. It was like 25 marathons. She ran the Boston 5 times. Like her best time was a 3:16, which is like a 7:45 pace, which is like, to me, because like now she would get up and run like her 10 miles before any of us were up. And like, I'm up early working out, but I'm not running 10 miles.
Wow. That's impressive.
I mean, like to see like the work that she would put in, because she ran a marathon, like her first one was like barely under 4 hours. And then she trained for like a year and didn't run another one for a year. And she shaved off like 30 minutes off her time just because she then just trained for a year. So I just think the daily work that she would put in, like my sister and I would bike with her sometimes, then we turn around and go home because she would run too far. So we would see it like on a day-to-day basis, the work that she would put in, which I think is something that like all 6 of us was like one of our strengths, was just like the daily work we were always willing to put in to get better. And it definitely translated, I think from like her, it translated into all 6 of us.
Well, clearly the success that all of you had, right? I mean, there's definitely genetics and some, God-given talent, right? But, so much of it is work. And, clearly your mom and your parents put that into you guys because all of you guys had tons of success in sports, right? I mean, not just like, hey, played some sports, had fun with it. I mean, all of you competed at a high level. I've crossed paths with, I think, all of your brothers. Yeah. And then obviously you and your sister at school, but just what I can remember from all of them is how hard they all played. Your brothers, like super intense, like physical, aggressive, no shortcuts. And that's literally what you just described. Like no shortcuts, got to put in the work.
Yeah, I think like growing up, our dad, like he got us a shooting tarp. Like I know like everybody has them now, but we had a shooting tarp in our backyard, and he'd get home and he's like, "Oh, did you guys shoot your pucks today?" We're like, "Oh no, we haven't done anything yet." And he would just like, so he'd be like, "Oh, well," he goes, "Someone somewhere is getting better today. Are you like, did you get better too?" And so like, we're like, "Oh, okay, we better go shoot our pucks." But like with my sister and I, it was always the 2 of us. So we were always pushing each other. And so it was never like a drag to like go and do stuff, because we always had the other to like, we would shoot a bucket of pucks. One of us would be shooting, one would be in the garage stick handling. And then once we'd finish the bucket, we'd flip flop and we'd do like 2 or 3 rounds a day in the summer. And so it was just like those daily habits that we picked up at such a young age that our parents like, that was the biggest thing was our dad. I still remember like I think it was like Mites, we played in a championship game, and his big like speech to us was like the face in the mirror speech. Like no matter what you're doing, whether it was hockey, school, like anything, it was always like, did you put your best foot forward? Did you do everything you could to be successful? And if your answer is yes, then at the end of the day, like you might be disappointed with the result, but you shouldn't be disappointed in yourself. And so I think that's like such a big thing that like I hope what we're able to translate to our kids.
I do have one quick question before you go, Benny. And I've never really asked you guys this, and it probably never would have came to my mind last time I'd seen you in person, which was college. Yeah. But you and your sister have been tied together for so much of your hockey career. Yeah. Was that ever something that at one point like maybe bothered you guys or caused any conflict between you two, or were you two always really tight and everything was always like just competing with each other, but you were super close the entire way through?
We were close the entire way through. So we had made every single team together except for, it was the 4 Nations team. Actually, when we were at Minnesota. So Jocelyn made the team, and I did not that year. And I remember Jocelyn got the call, and she was on the phone with the coach at the time, and she was like, "Oh, Monique's in the other room. Do you want me to like put her on the phone?" And she's like, "No, we're gonna call her tomorrow." And so then I got the call the next day that I did not make the team. So it was. I know like it was probably harder for Jocelyn to be at that without me there, because it's like for us it was always like our dream to do everything together. And so I'm sure she probably felt like a little out of place, or like we do everything together, like as far as like hockey goes, like training together, like extra work, we're always doing it together, whatever it was. And so like for me as an individual at that point, I was like, okay, because that was a year out from the Vancouver Olympics. So I'm like, hey, I know it's more important how I perform like the second half of our college year at Minnesota. that's going to be like the determining factor if I make the world championship team, not if I do well at this Four Nations tournament. And so we both made the world championship team that spring right after the college season finished, and then ended up making the Olympic team the following year. But yeah, our paths have always been intertwined in hockey, and it was all like, that was just like normal for us. So it would be weird if it wasn't. So that's like, I think always like something that's made our journey especially unique is just, it's always been the two of us, and it's kind of like a team within a team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to get into that a little bit more, but I want to kind of keep it where we have it right now. I'm looking at my phone because your brother sent me a couple things. One I'm going to bring up now. The other one is for a little more serious conversation down the road. And it kind of involves, in the end, it involves what you and all your teammates did at USA Hockey that we learned about from Gigi when she was on. So let's start with a kind of a humorous one here first. I'm reading this as he wrote it to me.
I bet it's going to be like, who's your favorite brother is going to be one of them. I'm sure.
No, it's no. You want to take another guess?
We can do that one.
No, it said, he said, awesome. She'll be a good conversation for you guys. But here's what he wrote. The first one. You could ask her if you locked the 6 siblings in a cage on a fight to the death, who would come out alive? I'm actually curious on her answer. That's the first one.
Oh, man. No weapons?
He didn't specify, so you can go wherever you want with this.
You know what? I think Phil would probably be the first to be killed off because he's just smaller than everybody. He's a goalie. And then Jocelyn and I, we would team up. So we might be able to take out like Jock and Pierre Paul. Or no, I feel like it would be Pierre Paul or Mario because those two are just like, once you like I call it like blackout rage and you see red, like the two of them, like once like I feel like they get to a point and like a flip just switches, but I might have to go with Pierre Paul on this one, like in a fight.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure Mario will see.
He's got a longer reach than Mario because Mario's short. He's got short arms, so
yeah,
I'm gonna give it to Pierre Paul on this one.
I know that brother as well. I think the only one I haven't met or called a game of is Phil. So I think all the other ones. I certainly remember Jock. He was up for the Hobie at Air Force. Is he still off topic here? Just I'm curious. Is he still in the military, or how long did he go?
He's actually one of the commanders at the air base in Grand Forks right now. So he's done 2 deployments. He was actually just in Saudi Arabia a little over a year ago. He did a year deployment, but he's in Grand Forks now. They'll get restationed, I think, this following year. They'll be under their next stop, but he's only got like 5 or 6 years left, and then he's put in his 20 years already, which is crazy how fast we're all getting old. So, I know. It's like he was saying that the other day. I'm like, oof, like it's already been that long.
Crazy. So to follow up along those lines, what do you still remember from those days when you were all out there playing together, and what, like, if anything, what stuck with you? Like, was there anything that stuck with you, like from those family games and out on the rink, and what's still vivid in your mind?
Well, I think like for my sister and I specifically, like if we didn't keep up, they didn't want us playing with them. So it was like from a very young age, Jocelyn and I had to like work our hardest because otherwise they wouldn't let us play. And so that was like, that was something I think like translated so well into like our athletic careers, because it was just like no matter what it didn't matter what it was, we had to like always put our best foot forward. And so that certainly I think helped in our hockey careers for sure. But I remember like we would go out on the coulee like across the street from my parents' house, and we would like now I think there's like kids like they have a 4-wheeler and they'll clear it off, but we would have a shovel out there. We would call the house across the street like, hey, can you turn the floodlight on with the it was a landline phone at the time. I know no one has them anymore, but we would call their house like, hey, can you turn the light on? And we'd be out there, and then my mom would ring a bell, like a cowbell, or no, she would blow a whistle 3 times when it was like time to come up. Cause then like another family, like their kids had like a cowbell. So like you knew whose mom was calling you up to
That's
come
cool.
up for the evening. But like Coach Stafford at Shattuck, he calls it like the first layer of the heart, and just like the pure love and joy for the game. And so like when I think of being out on the pond, and just like that's just like where your initial love for the game, I think, develops. I remember before the 2018 Olympics, Jocelyn and I, like, we made that team by the skin of our teeth, and not because of an ability thing. We could maybe touch on that later, but we were home for a few days. I couldn't play. I had separated my shoulder, and so I couldn't go on the ice, but my sister went on the ice with Pure Paul, and then two of my brother's friends that we grew up with were home. And so they were playing 2-on-2 out on the ice, like right before the Olympics. And then I was sitting out there with my sister-in-law, like just watching. And it was just like one of those things. It's like bringing it back to like home base and like what's important before we headed off to the Olympics. And like ultimately when like had a great tournament. But yeah, I think just memories of that, and like street hockey in the summers, we were always playing. Usually they ended with either Phil breaking all the goalie sticks, Pure Paul elbowing somebody in the face, or Jock like cheap shotting or like slashing. So that's usually how the games ended at some point.
That's how you toughen up, though. That's, we talked about that actually, a lot of this stuff. I think it was with Lurgy on the last one, Benny, or two ago before we had Marty, and Lurgy before that. We were talking about like the outdoor ice component and how everything has to be so structured for the kids now. Like it is crazy. Like I think about all I ever did was skate on the pond when I wasn't at practice. Yeah. Like you still have your practices you have to go to, but I skated on the outdoor rink across the street from me. And I knew, you're talking about landline. I knew all my buddies' numbers by heart and could call them on the landline and try to round people up. And we'd spend all day there on the weekends. And, it's unfortunate. I just don't think that happens as much anymore because the kids, it has to be planned for them or they don't go. So it's always fun to hear the stories about how we all grew up.
Yeah, like with the termite program in East Grand Forks, they do so like it's 2 skates a week, and then they always give like 2 open ice sessions. So it's just like kids can go, like it's not outside, but it's just like, hey, just go out and have fun, skate, and it's no structure, which I love that. Not having the structure, but it's like we weren't even done with our season this year for like termites, and we got the schedule for like spring ice that was starting like in a week, and I'm like, I'm sick of going to the rink. You were not going to the rink. You're not doing it. And like he didn't even want to anyways, Mickey, our oldest. But yeah, it's just like kids just need there's too much structure, I think. And I think that's in general with a lot of youth sports, not just hockey, but just like let kids go out and like let them play, and they'll have more fun and they'll get more creative. And that's just like, it's so much more fun. Like it doesn't always have to be so structured.
Well, that's what's crazy too, is that you see guys now and you watch like the speed of the game is insane, right? And then you see how skilled some of these guys are, even in like high school now and college, and they can do stuff that I was like, there's no way I was doing that in high school. Yeah. But at the same time, it feels like so many of them lack hockey sense or just the ability to play and just be free flowing if it's not given to them, right? It's like they have it set in their mind what they're going to do because that's what they've practiced a million times, but then they can't play the game. So that's, trying to find a balance. Structure is great, but there needs to be a balance.
Yeah, I think the balance is such a big thing because it's like you have all these skills coaches these days, but then it's when you go back to like how you acquire skills and develop skills, and it's not like being taught like just from like a developmental standpoint. It's like you see these skills practices and you have kids that are doing like 10 different things to go like shoot a puck, and it's like they're not actually like learning a new skill that they need to work on. But then it's like, okay, well, are we going to work on like breaking pucks out? Are we going to work on tipping? Are we going to work on like just catching a hard backhand pass, which are skills that are going to be used 90% more of the time than like working on your toe drag or doing like a Michigan or whatever.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the YouTube hockey guys.
Yeah. So it's interesting to like kind of have seen that like evolution, and it's just, but then like to your point is you lose, like there's something like this, like the speed is obvious, like the game has gotten so much more skilled and it's getting faster and like the shooting's gotten better, but then like there's that lack of like, I almost call it like an it factor. Like what's the it factor? Like everybody's fast, everybody's skilled, everybody is talented at like the top level, but like what separates them? And it's
what's
like
your intangible?
those, like what's what is like, I feel like so many kids are missing like that intangible that separates them from everybody else. And it's just like, are you willing to do the little things? Are you going to stop on the defensive side of the puck? Are you going to finish your checks, whatever it may be? And I feel like it's losing a little bit of that if you don't have a good coach that's coaching that stuff into you on a daily basis. But
well, that's what's crazy too.
get me on my
one more.
soapbox.
You and me both. I was going to say Ben's going to text me on the side here and tell me to shut up in a second.
No,
but
not at all.
That's one of the things that, it's great how much hockey's grown, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Both the men's and the women's side. The numbers are great for USA Hockey. They keep increasing. That's all good.
Yeah.
Where I have an issue is, all the USA coaching hockey certification stuff. It's one of the reasons I only coach AAA right now, because I don't have to do any of that stuff. But it's guys go take these classes with no experience about what you're talking about, the intangibles, teaching the little things, like how do you pick up a wrap puck on the wall? How are you just working on catching pass on your backhand? Like how are you, winning battles in the corner? Like just the things that USA Hockey is not necessarily going to have in a set program for these coaches. And then the kids, all they're getting taught are the same thing over and over again, right? Like the skill sets that you can teach, and yes, you need to work on, but to your point, having coaches that can push the other side of the game and the stuff that maybe doesn't show up on the score sheet or on their highlights on YouTube, right? But it's stuff that's going to make a difference for them as they get older. So
I remember, so like in the, like a perfect example. So like in the Olympic gold medal game, when I scored the tying goal, like I caught a hard backhand, like cross ice pass that was like a little bit in front of me and I had to reach for it. But like, if I could tell, I couldn't tell you how many times. So like 2010 would have been like 2010. We were on the ice with our brother and he ran us through like a quick skill session, but we did like a quick, like just taking big circles in the neutral zone. And he was standing in the middle and he just fired a backhand pass. And we had to like get it back and just like went and you do like 2 or 3 circles, go in and shoot. So like my sister, like as a warm-up drill, we would do that like once or twice a week, like when we were skating, just the two of us. And then like if we were warming up some passing stuff, we would literally just stand there and we would just rip pucks at our backhand. And that was like a strength of ours, was like I played right or left wing, like I could catch anything on my backhand. And then like in the biggest moment, like I got a tough backhand pass and then caught it, ended up going to score. But like some people get that pass, it blows off their stick and it's into the corner. But it's like working on those little things that it's not fun. It's not glamorous to work on that stuff. But if you can't catch a backhand pass, then
the little things, right?
I'm done antagonizing the subject. We can move on. But it's Monique and I clearly share a lot of the same thoughts about the
that's cool
level right now.
So I want to get to the other point that your brother had texted me, but I'm gonna set this up first. So we know back when you were playing, when you were a kid, you and your sister, you didn't have girls teams, and again. We'll get into this as we go, what you and your teammates did for women's hockey in our country. Massive amount of respect for that, number one. So when you're growing up and you got to play against the boys, I mean, what was that like? And I'm sure there were some times that probably weren't a whole lot of fun. I mean, am I accurate in that, or what was the experience like?
We played boys up through our first year Bantam. So we actually played 3 years of checking. And so there was a girls team like later I think like Squirts Pee-wees that we had a girls team, but it was not competitive for us. So we stayed with the boys, but it was I would say up until Pee-wees, we didn't have tryouts. And so we were like best friends with most of the guys on our teams, like hung out with them. Like we go get invited to the birthday parties, all that stuff. And then Pee-wees, we actually had to try out that year. And so then we started to see a little bit of a shift with parents and then some teammates. And so you could tell, like, depending on how parents felt would kind of shape the attitude of a teammate. And so it wasn't a huge issue, but there was definitely like our Bantam year there, because we were first year Bantams on the A team. It was just an A and a B. And so like my D partner like didn't pass me the puck for like, it was like noticeable that like was not passing me the puck, that it's like I think something at some point got said, but so you dealt with a little bit of that, but then like from Pee-wees, we were like middle of the pack size wise. And then we went to Bantams, and then we were the smallest on our team, like from like just that shift, like all the boys started hitting puberty. And so like at that point that it was more of like having to protect ourselves, because we were probably like some of the more physical players on our team. Like we did not back down. We did not shy away from like going, like putting a hit on, like an open ice hit on anybody. And so in a way it probably put more of a target on our backs by doing that. But then it was at that point, it's like, okay, are we trying to play, or are we like just more trying to like protect ourselves from not getting hurt? And then that was in 8th grade. And then we knew at some point we were going to have to transition to playing girls hockey. And so then we ended up having the opportunity to go to Shattuck, which is, if there was any like thing I could pinpoint that like really changed the trajectory of our hockey career, was like, it was absolutely having the opportunity to go and play in Shattuck and just being in that environment day in and day out. And it was like, I love that place. So it's to be able to go there for 4 years and like just eat, breathe, and play hockey was pretty incredible.
You've done this a few times, because that's exactly where I was going to go next, kind of trying to work through your career. But what you shared there was pretty accurate to what your brother had said, like the experiences for you and your sister, and you know, some of the grief that you had to put up with. And you know,
like we'd be getting changed in we'd be getting changed in the bathroom someday, like we'd have to go like, and then like the social aspect of it, like in 8th grade, because we didn't get changed in the locker room anymore. So like it would be like the two of us, like it was like we were on the team, but we're like we're not in the locker room a whole lot. We'd get in the locker room like right before the game, and then have to like scoot out right after the game. And so you kind of you lose a little bit of like that social and like team aspect of it. So the socially was like switching over girls was also like, it was probably like good for us socially as well. So it was, but to be able to go to Shattuck, like Coach Stafford actually never saw us play. He went to like a board meeting, and then my parent, like with 6 kids, my parents couldn't afford to send one of us, let alone both of us, to Shattuck. And so he had went to a board meeting and then ran to like the nearest payphone afterwards and basically went to bat for my sister and I and said like, these two are going to change our program. And like, hey, we're going to be able to like make this work. And so we were going to go to Notre Dame in Wilcox, Saskatchewan. And then my mom no, we're not going there. You're going to Shattuck. So yeah, it's pretty like for a coach to do that and only going off reputation, never actually having seen us play, was obviously put his neck on the line for us as well, which was pretty cool.
Well, damn good instincts by him. I mean, that's obviously what your sister did, but I mean, all you did was put up 100 points every year from what I saw. I mean, I'm being sarcastic there. Yeah. So one more thing for me on this. So in what ways, how did that change your game? And I know, you know, your sister was there with you, but how did that take you to another level, Monique, when you were there those years?
Well, so up until high school, I had played defense, and then we went to Shattuck, and then I moved to forward.
Okay.
We went I think I went from like Bantams maybe scoring like 10 goals that year to then going and playing forward at 19U, and I think had over like 110 points that year probably. So, and then going from like a 30 game schedule to like a 60 game schedule. And so it was just like the game, like to me, it was like the game just slowed down and like you had more time and space. There wasn't checking. And like that was the big learning curve for us, was just like switching over and not taking penalties, which was an issue for us for a while. It was to develop, like, I think Mario probably touched on it. Like when you have kids that like, they're good at their age group and then they think they should move up and play up because that's like going to benefit them. But then it's like, okay, if you're at your ability level and you're stay in your age group and just dominate and you have the puck more, that's kind of like what it felt like going from boys to like switching over to girls. Was just like, okay, now we're like, we could have been 16 and under, but we were playing on the 19U team, but just like having that time and space and then that ability to develop offensively for that 4 years, I think was huge for us, because our Bantam year was definitely more of like trying to play physical and I don't know, keep up's not the right word because we weren't just trying to keep up, but like protecting ourselves in a way. So you're more like your thought process is like, okay, I'm not trying to get run over every shift. Now it's like, okay, I can make a play. Like I can make a play every shift.
No, you're just trying to run someone else over every shift. Sounds
like. And make a play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
So did you guys go down to Shattuck then in 9th grade? Is that?
Yeah.
That was the transition. Okay. So you obviously lived down there because it was nowhere close to home. What was that like moving away from home for you? I mean, again, you have your sister with, I'm sure that, again, huge benefit. You guys are, kind of going back to what you're talking about, the Bantam stuff being, kind of off to the side from the team because you couldn't be in the locker room. I'm sure having your sister along for that was huge too, right? You talked about how close you guys were and having a partner during that time. What was it like when you went down to Shattuck, moved away from home, into the dorms, all of that stuff?
Yeah. So my parent, if it wasn't, because we would have been 15 at the time. So like had it not been two of us together, I don't think they would have sent us off that early, but because it was like the two of us and we had each other, like they were okay with sending us. And then like at that point we had phones in our rooms and they shut off at 10 o'clock. And I think we were the only ones that did not have cell phones when we were there. So my parents finally got us a cell phone and then we had to share it. We shared it up until like our senior year of high school. Yeah. So it was interestingly though, like when we were getting ready to go into the dorms, we just assumed that they were putting us in the same room together, but there was like 4 other sets of twins and none of them wanted to be roommates. So we're like, no, you need to, like, we share half of our stuff. You got to switch these rooms around and we need to be roommates. But yeah, it was, I mean, like for us, we practiced in the morning 3 out of the 4 years we were there. So like we would get up, we'd go early, like get on the ice 15, 20 minutes early for every practice and work on some stuff. And like our junior, senior year, we'd be able to stay on after. So you'd have practice, then you'd go to school. And then after school, you'd have a workout. And now they have a skills rink now too. So and they do like a block scheduling now. So I'm like, oh, that would have been like heaven if like we would have had that type of schedule, but it's just to be able to be around other people that were great at that age groups. Like on the boys prep team that year, like Jonathan Taves was on that team. Kyle Acapulco. I think everybody on that boys team, except for like 1 or 2 players went and played Division I hockey. And then our girls team that year, everybody on our team, except for I think 1 player went and played Division I. So it was pretty cool just to be around that all the time. I think it's just a special environment to be around.
I was just going to say there was a lot of alumni because those guys are all my age. And I remember the teams that went through there and all the guys that went on to go play. And there's actually quite a few North Dakota alumni that have gone through that program.
Yeah, they had like Smabey, Duncan, Taves, Parisi, Stafford. Like they had like a pretty good pipeline for a while there. Like Ben Blood, like I mean, I could go on, but they had for a while there when Coach Axtell, they had a good pipeline of players that were going there.
So I'm going to lead into the next part here. So you end up going to the Gophers, and how did that come about?
Here we go.
Again, being down there, you're closer to Minneapolis now. I'm sure that garnered more attention. I'm sure you guys are already garnering attention, but more attention from the Gophers.
Yeah.
How did that all play out? I've never heard the answer to this question before.
So we very quickly were deciding between Wisconsin and Minnesota and North Dakota. They had just become like a fully funded women's team when we were in high school, and they were in the middle of a coaching change, I think our sophomore, junior year. So it was like, and they were not very good. So like, it wasn't even really like a thought in our mind to go to UND. And so it was, at the time we committed it like maybe midway through our junior year at that point, which was like the earliest anybody had committed. Like people were committing usually like the beginning of their senior years at that point. And now I know it's like you're in middle school and people are committing, but
yeah.
Wisconsin was actually like the better team at the time. We're like, well, and like Tuss was like, hey, Minnesota, like they used to be like at the top, like we want to try and get them back up there. And so it wasn't like for us, like we knew we were going to catch grief for it, but it was like going to UND wasn't really like at that time, like wasn't really an option. So it was, and I'm assuming your next question is like, why did we transfer?
Well, you're kind of teeing it up that way. So
yeah.
She's done this before, Carmi.
Transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because we had a great year at Minnesota. We were, I think I was in the top 10 for the Patty Caz, one of the leading scorers in the country, an All-American. Jocelyn was like, I can't remember if she was an All-American, but like right up there with me. We had great, like statistically had great years. We went to the Frozen Four, lost to Mercyhurst, to go to the championship game. I think we were regular season champions that year. So we had a great year, had fun. And then we actually had signed a lease for the next year, like fully intending on planning going back. And then we were at a get together and someone had asked us like, oh, if you won a national championship with UND or Minnesota, like which would mean more? And we're like, North Dakota, duh. Like, and it was like that simple of a question, like got us like really like got our wheels spinning a little bit. And then like within like a few days, we're like, is our heart like truly like where it needs, like where we want to be? And so Brian Adolski was the coach at the time. And so we had, I think, we didn't call him because I don't think we were allowed to, but we knew we would have to redshirt a year. So like before all this transfer portal stuff.
Yeah.
So we had Olympic tryouts, so we weren't guaranteed to make the Olympic team. So we transferred knowing that we would have to redshirt a year, but we might have to sit, like if we didn't make the Olympic team, like we were like actually sitting out a year, which would have like really sucked. But we ended up making the Olympic team, doing full-time online classes to be ready to play at UND the following year. But UND that year had 2010 was, I think they were last or second to last in the WCHA. So we went like going to like one of the, like usually if you're transferring, you're trying to go to like a better situation. Like we were going to like one of the, like we were going a ways down, but we went like we were finished in the top 4 that year, hosted home ice for the first time, like for UND. Our junior and senior years, we went to the NCAA tournaments. Like our senior year, we played Minnesota, who went undefeated and lost at like the last minute of triple overtime. And like most people were like, this is the championship game, like that game. And it was, I've never been like so tired and like my body like hurting so bad after a game. But like had we stayed in Minnesota, we probably would have won 2 or potentially like 3 national championships and would have been like great. But to be able to like put our mark on UND and like make them into like a top 8 team in the country was in like such a quick turnaround was really special for us.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see the benefit to that. I do have a question though. Which rink was the better home rink? Which rink did you feel like had a better environment, Ritter? And the women, you guys played at the Ralph too, right?
Yeah, we played at the Ralph. Yeah. I mean, we had our attendance when we were there. Like we had, like when we would play the Gophers, like we would have good attendance. We'd have a couple thousand people at the game, but like you're in a 12,000 person rink, so obviously it doesn't feel like packed like Ritter. But I mean, they were at the national championship game was it 2 weeks ago, and that place was packed. So like to see that is like, it's so cool to see like how far women's hockey has come, and to like see it. That was probably like one of the best hockey, like women's hockey games, like college, international, whatever, that Ohio State, Wisconsin game with a penalty shot with like 20 seconds left. To see like how far women's hockey has come, like that was like one of the more entertaining games I've seen in women's hockey. So it's just really cool to see just like how far it's come, and just like the speed and the shoot, like the overall shooting and the skill has just gotten so much better over the years.
For sure, that shootout move was unreal. That was
what I loved about it was Mark Johnson, like on the bench, he's like, "Who wants it?" And like her hand went up like right away. So like to see that like from a coach is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Sure. I want to backtrack a little bit, and then I want to get into the Olympic stuff with you, Monique. So first of all, when do you recall the first time that the dream or the conversation came up of, I have a chance to play for my country? When did that happen for you?
So my mom always had Olympic stuff on, summer, winter. So like growing up, it was like, we're going to be in the Olympics, like whether it was for soccer, for whatever it was. And then like in 2nd grade, Jocelyn did a school project, and it was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it was like, I want to play on the play hockey in the Olympics with my twin sister, Monique. So like that was in like 2nd grade. And I think we were always very different. Like we just kind of just like, we walked to the beat of our own drum. Like when we were in 7th grade, we were on like the varsity cross country team and soccer team. Like we just were like ultra competitive in whatever it was that we were doing. And we always like wanted to be the best at whatever it was. And so like we started training, like working out on our own. Like we begged our mom to have it like put us into like, it was like sports acceleration at the time, like begged her to like put us in it so we could do like training stuff after school. And we obviously had our brothers to kind of like see what they were doing and are always trying to do that. But like we even like going to Shattuck, like we would ask the strength coach, we're like, hey, can you give us extra workouts? Like like we were always willing to do the extra work to get better, whether it was in the gym or on the ice or like in a skills room. And so we always were a little bit different. And like, I think at first we would get frustrated when other teammates didn't work as hard as us. And then we learned, like, as we matured, was like, okay, not everyone's going to like do all of that. It's like, hey, how do we pick up other teammates to like get them to do more? And like when, or at least like when we're at practice, like they're dialed in, they're focused, like they're giving it their best. So I think that was like a way that we matured like in our leadership as we got older though.
So Ben, we shared real quick. We shared a weight room with the girls team when we were at school together. So a lot of times our workouts would be overlapping and things like that. And it's funny she just brought this up, and I specifically remember thinking this because I was a junior when they came in. And had heard of who they were, didn't know either of them, but I remember you and your sister. I felt like you guys were in the gym 3 times as much as anybody else. Like you guys were always in there doing, like you talked about, doing extra and doing more. And so that was the first time I remember seeing you guys. I'm like, God, they're always in here. I need to get in here more, I guess.
Yeah, like that was so, like, I think we're a lot like our brother Phil now. Like there's something like we loved like the grind and like the daily work of like getting better and like putting in that extra work. Like, I mean, like, so I probably partially why I get up at 4 a.m. and still work out. But like,
yeah,
there's just like something about like putting in like an honest day's work and like putting your best foot forward. Like, hey, like at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I got better at something today. Like I accomplished something today. And so like when you apply that, whether it's to hockey or it's anything in life, like you're going to be like, if you apply that, you're going to be successful in it, like whatever it is that you do, if that's kind of how like I tick. So I mean, whatever it is I pursue, like I know I'm willing to put the work in. So I know at the end of the day, I'll be successful.
So in terms of the Olympics.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to transition to the Olympics. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we got it. So 98, and you guys were talking about the championship game, and I had the pleasure of doing the 08 Women's Frozen Four with an Olympic legend, Angela Ruggiero. We worked it together, and it was pretty cool. And so I know that team they were the first team to win gold for the U.S., right?
Yep.
So it'd been 20 years. So you go through 10, you go through 14, and you come up short to Canada, and then in 18. I mean, to see everything that you went through and the work that you put in, the heartbreak and the blood and the sweat and the tears, when you finally got that gold medal around your neck, what was that feeling like?
Well, I think like to rewind. So like in 2010, Canada was like certainly the better team. Like if our goalie played out of their mind, we might be able to like win. We had won the world championship previous to that. And then going into 2014, we were probably favored to win, had won 2 of the 3 world championships going into 2014. And then we were up 2-0. Canada ties it up with like less than a minute left in the game. With 3 minutes, it was like 3 minutes to go. It's 2-0. And then they ended up tying it up. We lose in overtime. So just like, I'm still sour about it. Always will be.
I remember that one. I remember that one.
Yeah, like an empty netter that like went down the ice and like it hit the post, and it was going so slow that the puck just like sat there like 2 inches from the post. Like, and then they come around, go down and score. Anyways, so we lose that one. And then I think that just like really set like in the locker room and just like that leadership group that had been through that, we're like, okay, what do we need to do that like this result never happens again? And it was really like instead of like pointing the finger like at other things, it was like, okay, what, like we're pointing the fingers at ourselves and within this locker room, like what do we need to do off the ice? What do we need to do on the ice? What do we need to do like mental skills wise to like be prepared? So we went out like that 3 years. We won 3 world championships in a row. We're certainly favored going into the Olympics. And then we went through our gender equality battle too, also going into the Olympics. And so like, I think the pressure was on us to perform. And so to be able to come out, like I'll fast track a little bit to have that gold medal around our necks. And then especially to win, like me scoring the tying goal and then my sister to score the game winning goal in the shootout. Like those are like when you're in the driveway as a little kid and you're like, I'm like Wayne Gretzky in game 7, I'm going to score like that. Like those are like the moments you like make up as a kid. And so to like have those moments, like the two of us specifically, like with the year, like especially with the adversity we had gone through going into that year and into the Olympics, and to have the tournament we did, it was just like, you can't like write a better like ending for us. And so it was to have like, you have like your parents there that are in the stands, like you have like these flashbacks of like me working on my backhand passes when scoring, but then like Jocelyn, that shootout move, our head coach, our associate head coach at UND, Peter Elander, he worked with us like specifically on like these stick handling drills to like, we were blue in the face and he would give us like too much feedback, but like he would correct us after like every rep. But it was like, that was one of the moves we would work on. And so then like in the biggest situation, you like big pressure pack situation you could ever be in, Jocelyn goes and like performs that move flawlessly. And so to have those moments and like to have our parents in the stands and like actually Peter was at that game and our husbands were both there. And so it's just like, it's like all encompassing. So it's just like, it's special. It's pretty, like you just think about it and it's like giving me like goosebumps talking about it. Cause I don't talk about it like too often. So I'm just like Mickey's mom, Sonny's mom these days. So.
I always, real quick, Carmi. So Carmi knows this. I think I mentioned it to Gigi. And I got a chance to interview Bonnie Blair a few years ago. Yeah. And when I asked Bonnie, I said, take me back to that moment. I have goosebumps right now, just for the record, hearing you share that, because it's so powerful. And it's like, it was like a Hollywood script almost, right? In a way, you know? And she literally said to me, I could see her choking up and she's like, stop, you're going to make me cry. So it's a powerful moment. That's so awesome.
Yeah. For us, like you're always watching the Olympics and you watch like the highlight clips and like things that get played like through the years. And it's like, I remember like the following day was like myself, Maddie Rooney, Hillary Knight, Megan Duggan, and Jocelyn. We had to do some media stuff the following day. And we're like, guys, we're like that highlight. Like that's us.
You were. Yeah.
So like you kind of like step back and like pinch yourself a little bit. And they had actually the NBC, they put like a compilation of like people around the country, like celebrating at like 2 a.m. Yeah. And they showed it to us and we're all like teary eyed trying not to like ruin our makeup. But it was to have a moment like that, especially like with the players that have been around since 2010, like Gigi, Megan Duggan, Casey Bellamy. I think I'm missing one other person, but especially for us to have that after like 2 not failed attempts, after 2 silver medals is pretty special for us.
You talk about celebrating that. So I was just going to say, I remember sitting in the basement at 2:00 in the morning on edge, staring at my computer, like waiting and watching, and then being so happy for you guys. That was so cool to see. Talking about, the fight you guys went through, we talked about this with Gigi a lot too, when we had her on. How did you and Jocelyn deal with before, the pay stepped up and everything else? What were you guys doing to, like, we talked to Gigi about the creative ways you had to train or make a living while you're, essentially trying to train to be an Olympic athlete. What did you guys do for all that in the background?
Yeah. So after the 2014 Olympics, that was like our first like full post-grad year after we had graduated. So I actually 2014, our team was centralized in Boston. And then I ended up going back to Boston. My now husband was the BU men's hockey strength and conditioning coach. So
oh wow.
I was in Boston for that year. I played in the CWHL and we won a Clarkson Cup. Is that what it was called? Won like the regular. So I got 2 $500 bonuses, our team did, for winning the championship. But we practiced twice a week at UMass Boston in the evening. Practices were not mandatory. So I went to like our local in Stoneham. I went to like the local rink and met the manager, Lou, and was like, hey, do you guys have any open ice? Like, he goes, yeah, it's like drop in $20 a time. And then after like the 3rd time, he like stopped taking my money because that's how I'd get like extra ice. And then BU, they were actually like Coach Quinn was the men's coach at the time. So I actually ended up started training at BU because I begged my Anthony. I was like, can you please like just train me? Like, cause he didn't want to train me at the time. And I was like, just please train me. And then the coaching staff was great to me. They let me use the ice at Aganis whenever it was available. So that was awesome of them. But then the following year I moved back to Grand Forks. Anthony moved as well. And then my sister and I, we were working as strength coaches because we both actually got our master's in kinesiology. So we were coaching and training groups. Jocelyn was coaching she was a strength coach for the UND women's hockey program at the time. So we would get up at we would coach an adult group at 5:30 in the morning. We would alternate our days. Then we would train ourselves, like have our own training session. Then we'd go to the rink and skate and then go back to work. So we were putting in work, like you're coaching, you're on your feet, you're demoing, you're not going and sitting at a desk. So that was like usually like Monday through Friday. That's kind of like what our schedule looked like. And so it was a grind. It was like, we loved like the training aspect. We were like, this should not be this hard when we're like some of the top players. So like 2015, we had gotten contact with John Langle, who was our lawyer, who used to be the U.S. Soccer's representation. So Jocelyn actually called him one day and was like, called him Mr. Langle. And like at first he was like, well, because she was afraid to ask like how much he costs. He's like, don't worry, I know you can't afford me. Like, we will do this pro bono. So he like quickly let off with that. But like right away, Jocelyn made the call. And then I always say I was her secretary because I would draft emails and like proofread and send them off. But that started like our journey into 2017 to almost not going to the world championships just to get, and like, we weren't asking for millions of dollars. Like we weren't, not even six figures. We're just asking like to have like a wage that like, we're not all working full-time jobs on top of being full-time athletes. And so, and then just having like the same support that the men's team has or like NTDP. And so to be able to sign that contract, because we signed that contract because we didn't go to our pre-camp. We signed our contracts, had one practice, went into the world championships, and then went on to win that world championships undefeated. But like we didn't have a pre-camp. We didn't get on our flights. So it was like we had a 12-hour negotiation session in Philadelphia that like 10 of us flew in for. So it was high, but like even amongst all that, we were all saying, hey, make sure you're getting on the ice. You're still training. Because if we sign these contracts, we got to be ready to go and like can't miss a beat. And so to like outside of the gold medal, like that period of time is certainly like the most proud, I think, just like being a part of a team that accomplished something that was so much bigger than just like us on the roster. And being able to like really change the landscape of women's hockey. Because I think after that, then it's like you had the PWHLPA, like the Players Association that started. And that really, I think, our example, I think, was like, okay, if we stick together, like we can accomplish a lot. And I think that just really like set the tone moving forward for women's hockey and like what we can do with it.
So I have a question for you, Monique, and I had never really thought about this before until you were just talking about like the support of like, the national team development program. And Obviously girls hockey has grown a lot. They have the development camps now. Do you see a future of like where like the boys program that young girls would be going to train in high school there year round? Is that a possibility?
I mean, it's called the Ted Stevens Act. So it's different than like professional sports. So like as far as like USA Hockey is a governing body. So like what you provide your men's programs or boys programs, you're supposed to provide an equitable on the women's side or girls side. And so like they pump, I mean, this is like a different, like maybe a little bit, because there millions of dollars gets pumped into the NTDT program for two teams. It's like, will that money be better spread around like the whole USHL and like really developing like a lot of players? I mean, USA Hockey is obviously doing great. They're producing skilled players, great top end players. They did really well at the that world champ. What was the tournament recently with
World
that
Nation?
Yeah, so like
Nation.
they're producing top end players. And so like that's a side topic, but like for women's players, I don't know if it's big enough or like, I don't know if it's deep enough where you could create a program like that if you pulled all of the top players into like one or two teams, like, because then what are the rest of the teams going to look like? So I don't know if the numbers are quite there yet, but USA Hockey is definitely doing, I think they're doing certainly a lot more than like when we were playing. And so I think to see them continuing to make the steps is nice to see. And then obviously like with the creation of the PWHL, hopefully that just continues to help grow the numbers at the grassroots level. You get more girls signed up, your numbers are going to grow. And then ultimately, hopefully your talent pool just ends up growing with it.
Yeah, the PWHL product, it's insane how for not having been around that long, how great it's doing. That's fun to see the packed NHL rinks for the games and high quality competition. And I keep saying I need to go to a Frost game. I still haven't done it. I feel like I'm a bad hockey fan for not having done that, but I will do that next year. It's on.
I haven't been to one either, so I'm hoping to bring our daughter. She'll be 3 next year, and then my sister has she has 2 girls. She'll be 4 in she'll be 4 in July, and then their other one just turned 1. So I think next year we're going to hopefully try and bring the girls to a game, which would be pretty cool.
So I one more thing for you, Monique, in regards to what you and your teammates did. Yeah. When you start, you're a kid, you're trying to live out that dream that you told me about or told us about with your sister in the class and the book and all that. But once you're in it, then you realize that things need to change.
Yeah.
So, and we women did that. So it's certainly a case of leaving it in a better place than it was in, but that probably wasn't your intention when you started. Again, it wasn't probably the intention until you were all in it and seeing, hey, this needs to change to make it more of a fair and even playing field. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, certainly. It was for us, it got to a point where it was like, is it like, we're putting in all this time and effort and we are not being appreciated, or like at what point, like for us, it was like, okay, if this isn't going to change, like this isn't worth me putting off having kids and being gone 2.5 months out of the year if we're not being supported properly. Like you consider us elite athletes. We're some of the best hockey players in the world, yet we're working full-time jobs. Like I was a flex time employee at the time. So like I was actually losing money by not being at work and going to like tournaments and going to like world championships and stuff. So like, which sounds like you say, and it sounds so bad.
It does.
But to like, when we went through our boycott, we stopped at my parents' house. So my parents like kind of knew what was going on. They didn't really know that Jocelyn and I were like really spearheaded it at the time. They like knew, but like didn't know. And then because USA Hockey was actively trying to replace us, like had called like Division III, like all the way down, like Division I players, Division III club hockey, like everybody. And they couldn't find a team, like people to say yes, because I think our message just resonated with everybody. And so I'm like our dad, he goes, well, what if they replace you? And then what? Like, and you don't make the Olympic team? And Jocelyn's like, well, then I can lay my head on my pillow at night knowing we did the right thing. And my dad was just like, okay. Right.
Tough to argue with that one.
That's great.
And that was just kind of because we were willing to step away, knowing we were trying to do the right thing and change the landscape. Because like ultimately, like I benefited for 2 years afterwards. So like 2 years out of 10 on the team, like I benefited from it a little bit, but like it's really like this next generation of players that is going to reap the rewards for it. And then with the PWHL now starting, it's just like it's going to keep older players in longer and not feeling like they need to retire. So like you're just seeing like Hillary Knight still kicking the can down the rink, and like you're seeing like just more and more players, they're playing longer. The talent pool is just getting better, and like I think just like the overall just level just continues to get better too.
Gotcha.
For sure. So premise of our show, right, when the game ends, talking about transitioning out of playing.
Yep.
So first question, 2018, 2017, well, it started 2015. It sounds like you guys were fighting for change, right? You got it in 2017, Olympics 2018. Did you know going into those Olympics, because correct me if I'm wrong, those are your last games you played, right? Were those
We
that
played in
Olympics?
2020. We had right before COVID. Was
Okay.
our last games with the national team.
Okay. So that my question then completely goes out the window because I was gonna say, did you know those Olympic games were gonna be your last? And like when you won the gold,
we were wanting to play in another one.
Okay. That was my next question. Well, how did that kind of all transpire for you?
Yeah. So after the Olympics, like my people were like, I asked my sister, like, was this plan? Like we both wanted to start having kids. We were 28 at the time. So we're like, hey, we finished this Olympics and like, we both wanted to start families. And so luckily, like some people, like for us, I was able to get pregnant right away and then had Mickey in December of 2018. So then took like that year off. So I had him in December and then our first camp back was in 2019 of August of 2019. So played like that season with the national team. And we went to going into the first camp, we had a new coach and I was talking to one of the assistant coaches one day. And I was like, at that point I had played forward and defense on the national team, was probably a better defenseman, but had been like, could play anywhere pretty much. And I remember I'm like, well, does this coach want me to play forward or D? So like when I get on the ice, like I know what I'm working on. And he goes, honestly, I could tell him you're a left-handed center and he wouldn't know that. I'm like, so at the time I like thought it was kind of funny. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, I'm right-handed and I can play wing or D, not center. And so I'm like, well, I've been on this team for this long and the coach doesn't know what position I play or doesn't know like what he wants me to play or like what handed I am. So like what I'm like, that's pretty shitty to be told that when I've been a part of the program for almost half of my life. So that never sat well with me, but like we went to our first camp, we both brought our boys with us at the time. And we we had a tournament we had a couple games in November and then we went in, it was right before, it was like a week or two before the lockdowns. We had the rivalry series with Canada. We had 3 games, 2 in California, or 2 in Canada, 1 in California. And our grandma had actually passed away like the morning we were leaving for camp. And then our boys were staying home with our husbands. So we were away from the boys for like 2 weeks, which was the longest we had been away from them. And I think just being at that camp, it was just kind of like this shift for us. Like, is this where we want to be? Like we're away from family. And then we had gone to our grandma's. It just so happened that we were in Vancouver and then we got a quick flight to Edmonton to go to the funeral. So we were with our family for about like 24 hours. And then we flew back the next day to California to play in the game. And we were in the airport and we're like, we did not want to go. We wanted to we didn't really want to be getting on a flight. And it was just kind of the shift. Like we had missed we've missed weddings, we've missed family events. Like, are we still wanting to miss things for hockey? Like, is it really worth it? So it was like, just for us, I think it was just like, we just kind of knew it was like time to start like changing gears. We knew we both wanted to like have more kids. I have 4 now. But it was just kind of, I think just like this natural shift that like, hey, we're ready to like, we've given everything we've got. And like, if I'm going to be a part of the program, like I want to be able to say like, I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm giving it everything I can. And I will, but like my heart was just like, I don't think it was like totally in it anymore. At that point, it was just a shift. And I think Jocelyn, I think she would agree and probably felt the same way. And so like for us, and then COVID happened and it was just like, okay, this is kind of weird. It was like, we don't even know when the next camp's going to be like this. Like, we don't know what anything looks like. So it was just kind of like a natural way to like, for us to step away and we were ready for a change.
It's funny you talk about when the next camp was going to be during COVID. They were getting so creative with games and trying to get the team ready before the 2022. I played on one of the men's teams that played against them. They were putting together groups in the Twin Cities, and there's a bunch of like former D1 guys and guys that played minors, some NHL, and we're all like, a lot of us hadn't played competitively in 5, 6. For me, it was 7 years. And all of a sudden, I've got to start doing stopping and starting and penalty kill against the power play on the Olympic team. I'm like, nah, this isn't for me. I can't do this anymore. But
like they would train and then they would have to go back to wherever they were living and like weren't supposed to be interacting with each other. And like we were because all of it's like all of our former teammates are still on the Olympic team. So we're getting like, we know, like, we're kind of in the know on like what's going on. And I'm like, I am so glad I am not a part of that. Like, it was just like, not like, I'm glad, like, it was the right time. And then like, you're in Beijing, like your families aren't there. It's like totally different experience. So it was the right time for us to step away.
Yeah, I remember the gauntlet of tests we had to go through just to go on the ice with them to play. So
yeah.
it was I think it was 2 or 3 rounds of testing, like the week before, the week of, the day you got there, just to make sure, or try to make sure anyways. So
yeah,
but it was fun. I had a good time with it. No, I'm always curious about that, because you're not the first person we've talked to where COVID has kind of like put the finishing touch on people's career. And for some that could be hard, right? If you weren't ready, but it sounds like both you and Jocelyn were ready for to kind of move on and be around your families and be around for holidays and all that.
Yeah. So our oldest is 6, and then it's 4, 3, 2 will eventually be the ages. And so we had, like, I knew we wanted more kids, but then even like, life is like, it's a series of transitions and like different chapters, and like closing one and starting another one. And so like definitely like stepped into like being a mom. And then after we had our 4th, I was like, he would have been Ralphie, he would have been like a couple months old. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Cause like I've been doing like this mom thing and I love it. I love my kids to death. I'm like, okay, when they like get into school, like I want to know that I'm like stepping into something. So like obviously I'm stepping into coaching, but that wasn't like my intention. But I got my real estate license like a year and a half ago. So my husband and I were looking at like getting a rental property, and then the agent we were working with, she's like, well, have you ever thought about just getting your real estate license? I was like, I've like thought about it, but not like seriously thought about it. And then like by the end of that week, I had signed up for the course, got my license within like 3 or 4. It's like 90 hours of like computer classes. So like got my 90 hours and passed the test, passed whatever the national exam was, and just like, okay, I'm jumping like 2 feet into this. And so I've been doing that now for like a year and a half. So it's like I've like transitioned like mom stuff, and now I'm like adding this to my plate, and I really enjoy it. It's pretty cutthroat, I've figured out pretty quickly, but I like the competitive aspect of it as well. And so I think just from a young age, we always like being female, like you're not going to make a living like playing hockey. You might like, yes, the players now are making money, but at some point, like you're going to be done and you're going to have to transition to someone like even the top 1% of professional players might be able to retire and then like not ever have to like get a job if they don't want to. But like, even if you play in the NHL for a few years, you're probably going to be needing to go get a job at some point. And so from a young age, we always knew like, okay, like we're pursuing hockey, but at some point hockey is going to be over and we're going to have to be able to transition into something else. And so I thought like we always had a healthy outlook on like there's life after hockey. And I think sometimes people are so zoned. Sports is an avenue to teach you, like it's the best way to like teach you about life skills and just like being a good person and working hard and like working within a team, and all like the things you can learn from sport translate into like anything else you do in life. And I think if we focus on that instead of like, oh, we want Timmy over here, he's going to go to the NHL. Like if he does, great, but like what are they actually learning at the end of the day that's going to like serve them well as adults?
That's well said. I mean, and I think that's a big difference between, the men's and the women's players is, I know for myself personally and a lot of guys I was with, like you said, we didn't think about what was next. We didn't plan for that. Like you dive into hockey and hockey is your life for so long that when it's done, or if it happens, if you don't leave on your own terms, all of a sudden you're like, well, what do I do now? So that's really great that you guys had that perspective and that, kind of like, hey, I'm going to play hockey as long as I can, but I need to know that there's an end date to that. There's a shelf life and to take the next step in your non-hockey career. So that's awesome.
Very, very few players ever get to end on the note that they want to. So I think just being realistic, like, and being realistic about like, okay, like like we put everything we had into our hockey careers, and like it like kind of ended the way, like it ended on a good note, but like certainly not the way we expected it to, but it was like we were at peace with it. And I think some people, when you're like so unprepared, I think is when they go, like when they have like a tougher transition of like, what's life outside of this? Like, what's my identity outside of that? And I think we always like knew, like we had an identity outside of just being hockey players.
That's awesome. That's incredible perspective, Monique, and love listening to you talk about that. The transition part, really, really good stuff there. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this before we wrap up. Among all the things that you've done, it'd be hard probably to, list them as what's most impressive, but I think it's pretty damn impressive that you're the only player in college hockey history to win All-American at 2 different positions. That's pretty damn impressive to me. What's that mean to you?
Well, I think like I actually didn't know that until after I had graduated. Like I don't think, and like I think at the world championship level, I think I'm the only player that's ever made like an all-star team as a forward and a defenseman.
That's
so
awesome.
To know like okay, I was pretty good.
You're very humble.
I think you're allowed to say that.
For me, it was like the individual stuff is great. Like,
yeah,
like to me, it's like, it's whatever, but like to have the memories of like what our team, like to be able to accomplish, like winning a gold medal. And like, I don't think you can say I have an SB up on top of that bookshelf. Like, so like our team being able to go to the SBs because of like what we accomplished in 2018, like to have those memories with teammates. And like, cool. when you're done and you're like, yeah, people will remember that shootout goal from Jocelyn. Like, but at the end of the day, like no one's going to remember the goals you scored. No one's like in that type of stuff. Like they remember like the type of teammate you are, the type of person you are. And if you made them feel good or bad, if you were a bad teammate, people remember that too. And so like, I want to like be remembered as like someone who treated their teammates well and was like a good leader and a good person at the end of the day. And if like, that's what people remember me for, then like, I feel like I don't care about like if people remember like the stats and everything. And so like, that's, I think part of the reason why Jocelyn were always gravitated towards team sports. We did individual sports, but like, we always just loved the team aspect.
Perfect transition to my question, which is, we talked about a cage match between you and all your siblings. Who wins in a one-on-one on the ice between you and Jocelyn?
Oh boy.
Ooh, probably me, because I'm a better defender.
I was just gonna say, yep. You're the one who's an All-American at both positions.
Defense,
twice.
But then, so actually, like Christmas time this year, my sister, my brother-in-law makes like a pretty, is it like an 80 by 40 rink? Maybe it has a pretty big like backyard rink. Mm-hmm. And at Christmas time, so like my husband had taken my kids home, or our 2 youngest home, and then we're at my sister's house. So I had our 2 oldest with me, and then 3 of our 4 brothers were there. 2 of our brothers were there. So Jock and Pierre Paul were like, come on, let's get on the ice. Like, come on. I'm like, I've gone on the ice to skate with termites and like coaching. I haven't like played since I retired. So I had jeans on. I put like I had my coaching bag in the car. So I put like my coaching pants over my jeans, and my sister Jocelyn went and grabbed like 2 jerseys. So like I think I had her Olympic jersey on and she had a USA jersey on. So our brother, because they were just like, no, we're going to play 2-on-2. We're going to play. And so like we played quick up to 3. And so you'll have to, if you have them on, like you'll have to ask them who won, because we beat them 3-2. So we're like, we still got it. So in a 2-on-2 match, we'll beat all of our brothers. So
okay.
Nice.
Well, I'm just going to get in Mario's ear and make you guys play 1-on-1, and he can report back to me next year at Christmas.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Monique, thanks so much for doing this. Loved your insight, loved your stories, and happy for your success. Like I said, I enjoy seeing your Instagram stuff. It's always entertaining with your kids, and happy for you and your family. And what a great family the Lamoureux family is. We can't thank you enough for doing this. We appreciate you coming out with us.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I'll be in Minneapolis sooner rather than later, since I'm a Minnesota resident now. So I didn't realize the flack I was going to catch for moving to the other side of the river. So
oof.
Well, you can hang a Gopher jersey in your house now, right?
Oh, I won't go that far, but I still have my old one, so I might have
Well,
to
that's
dust
good. That's a
off.
start.
I
That's a
just-
start.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Monique.
Yeah,
Just to echo what Ben said, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. And it was good to catch up with you. And really, you're the first person to have some of those perspectives about really being ready, years ago for the transition out of the game, which is what we're talking about here. So that was really cool to hear.
Yeah. Well, I think was it. I'm trying to think. My dad, my parents were always like, you can play hockey as long as you want, but you're not going to play it forever. So
Yeah.
even like our brother
That's right.
Phil's retiring this year, and he's played for what?
I saw that.
Where like
Yeah, yeah.
he's trying to figure out what he's doing next. So
Yeah. Well,
It's
we'll
a
have,
journey.
maybe UND's next goalie coach.
yeah, there you
Cool.
go. We'll have to have him on down the road here once he gets a little separation from it. And we'll stay connected with your family. You guys are an awesome group. Thanks so much, Monique.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That'll do it for episode 21 of When the Game Ends. For our guest today, Monique Lamoureux, co-host Mike Carmen, Ben Holden saying thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.